Greetings, humans. It's me, Bob Harris, Senior Editor, FootballDiehards.com. Time for the Week 6 injury review, preview, update, overview thing, a thing we like to do every Saturday. Kind of get you up to speed, help you set the table as you prepare to make lineup decisions heading into Sunday's games, and I'll run through them in chronological order to help you understand the fallback options you need to have in place if any of your players are discussed today. And we'll start out by noting the Bills, Bears, Colts, and Raiders are on bye. Get all those guys out of your lineups. And we have a early London game. The Buccaneers and Panthers face off. It's a 9:30 a.m. Eastern kickoff time, so inactives will be announced at 7. There are no guys of interest on the injury report. Those who are have already been ruled out. That would be Rashard Perriman for the Buccaneers has been ruled out. Chris Godwin's good to go off the injury report. Cam Newton, of course, out for the Carolina Panthers still. Christian McCaffrey, good to go. He missed Wednesday's practice. That's what Ron Rivera refers to as the new normal. Expect him to miss Wednesday every week as a day of rest and maintenance. Obviously, given his workload, he needs it. Anyone with McCaffrey on their rosters is on board with this. So getting into the Sunday early afternoon kickoffs, interesting because the Rams and 49ers, the West Coast game, will have the early afternoon kickoff. Interesting in addition because there's some big names on the injury report. Todd Gurley listed as doubtful. Basically means he's all but officially ruled out. Sean McVay is, suggesting that they'll take it all the way up to game time, but the doubtful designation is not good. He did not practice all week. He has a quad contusion, showed up, kind of caught the Rams off guard. They expected him to be okay, and now it turns out he's not. Malcolm Brown will start if Todd Gurley can't go, and that seems all but certain. And Darrell Henderson, a guy we all had high hopes for, would get an opportunity to demonstrate what he can do. On the other side of the ball, George Kittle was added to the injury report on Friday with a groin injury. Kyle Shanahan says he expects Kittle to play, but it was pretty soon after the injury, so we don't know how it reacts. One thing to watch on the main page of the site, the 49ers will be making the trip Saturday afternoon, so if for some reason something comes up, Kittle doesn't make the trip, we'll know about it then. Kyle Juszczyk, the fullback, has been ruled out. He'll miss 4 to 6 weeks with an MCL sprain. The Kansas City Chiefs host the Houston Texans. Some more big names. Tyreek Hill, questionable, could return this week. He'll be a game time decision. Had some medical tests on Friday to check his clavicle, see where it's at. Sounds like he's very close to returning. If not this week, it'll be soon, but it could be this week. And that would be great because Sammy Watkins, doubtful. We know what the doubtful designation means, right? All but certainly ruled out. So he has a hamstring issue. Don't expect him to play. Kenny Stills on the other side of the ball has a hamstring issue. He's a game time decision. Missed last week's game. Sounds like he's getting closer. If he's back, he'll just be another weapon for Deshaun Watson, who coming off a phenomenal game. So we're hoping for a huge track meet in Kansas City. That's not always the case in Kansas City, but let's hope for the best in that one. The Saints, interesting development there. Alvin Kamara was added to the injury report on Friday, or he turned up limited on Thursday. So he was added on Thursday, listed as questionable on Friday, did not practice Friday. According to various reports, including Tom Pelissero of NFL Network, it was simply a precaution holding him out on Friday. Again, watch the main page of the site or check the late breaking update section. They were traveling here shortly to Jacksonville. My guess is he'll go and he'll be available. Traquan Smith and Drew Brees have been ruled out in that game. But on all these guys in each range of kickoffs, I'll obviously have the official inactive announcements in the 90 minutes leading up to kickoff, whether they go or don't go. So check there. In the meantime, moving forward, James O'Shaughnessy on the other side of the ball has been ruled out, the tight end in Jacksonville. He's done for the year after suffering a torn ACL if you're in the desperation mode at tight end. Jeff Swaim seems like the most likely candidate with Josh Oliver, the rookie, still out with a hamstring injury for Jacksonville. Gardner Minshew was on the list, but he was removed on Friday, so he's good to go. Baltimore taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. Interesting, Marquise Brown was, John Harbaugh said early in the week that the ankle injury he suffered last Sunday was no big deal. He finished the game despite the injury, and that was not really a big deal. But then Marquise Brown did not practice all week, and now he's listed as questionable. So he seems truly questionable. While Mark Andrews did not practice Wednesday, that seems to be a new normal thing for him. He injured his shoulder in the game last week. If you weren't watching, he kind of went down hard on it, stayed on the ground, but he also came back to finish. So he was held out Wednesday, limited Thursday, full session Friday. Still got the questionable designation. My guess is he's much less questionable than Marquise Brown, but you'll need to watch. Other side of the ball, A.J. Green, of course, has been ruled out. Getting closer, though. Expected to do some work in pregame workouts tomorrow and test out where that ankle's at and see if he gets any swelling or soreness after going through pregame workouts, and then maybe we can start getting a feel for when he returns week 7. or beyond. For the Washington Redskins, at Miami, we'll start with the Dolphins. Kalen Ballage is questionable. He showed up on Friday. Mark Walton has been pushing him for playing time anyway, going back to the last game. It sounds like this foot injury will facilitate that. Albert Wilson and Jakeem Grant are both listed as questionable. Both seem more likely to return. Grant hasn't, or Wilson in particular, hasn't played since week 1. He hurt himself against the Patriots. He seems very close. On the other side of the ball, Case Keenum will start. Of course, Jay Gruden fired this week. We're expecting a run-heavy approach. So Adrian Peterson, if you can't start him this week, when you can you? It's a great matchup. And expected Bill Callahan going old school style on the Dolphins, who are very generous to the opposing running backs. Vernon Davis and Jordan Reed both ruled out with concussions, so Jeremy Sprinkle and Jerome Cunningham will be your tight ends of record there. The Seattle Seahawks are at Cleveland. Chris Carson was briefly on the injury report. Thursday, he was removed on Friday. He's had a sore shoulder. Expect him to shoulder, no pun intended, the bulk of the workload. Rashad Penny turned up as questionable. He's had a lingering hamstring injury, played through it last week. They're using him in interesting ways. I saw him split out wide at one point and made a nice catch. But Chris Carson has really been where the running work has been funneled through, and that should continue. Other side of the ball, everyone's good to go. Rashad Higgins looks like he's available to play. We'll see if he's active after sitting out since week 1. But he did practice fully all week, and he's off the injury report. Philadelphia Eagles are at Minnesota. Darren Sproles and Deshaun Jackson and Corey Clement all ruled out. Clement went on IR. Boston Scott was elevated from the practice squad to fill the roster spot. Deshaun Jackson, still no real timetable for his return. There's some interesting stuff that I'll have up in an article later in the late breaking update section. Check it out Saturday night if you get a chance, early Sunday. Just gives you a little background on what they're calling now an abdominal tear. Not a hernia, but not good for a speed guy. So we'll see where he's at also next week. He's aiming for a week 7 to 9 return reportedly. So on the other side of the ball, they're all good. Minnesota, Adam Thielen missed a day of practice due to illness. He returned on Friday and was removed from the injury report. He was out Thursday. Dallas Cowboys travel to New York to face the Jets. And I'm just getting this in just now. Jordan Reed is going on injured reserve. So Jordan Reed's season probably essentially over. Maybe his career, who knows. Suffered the concussion in week 3 of the preseason, still hasn't been cleared. So this shouldn't be a huge surprise. Jordan Reed on IR, so if you've been holding on to him, maybe now you have an excuse not to. Getting back to the Dallas, going to the New York Jets. Obviously, Sam Darnold is back this week, fully cleared. Demaryius Thomas is questionable with the hamstring. Chris Herndon, the tight end, eligible to return from suspension this week, but he won't. He injured a hamstring running routes late last week. It sounds like it might be maybe a 2-week injury. So give him a little time before you start forcing him back in. On the other side of the ball, Randall Cobb came up with a back injury on Thursday. He is listed as questionable. Late afternoon kickoffs. Just the game of great interest. The Arizona Cardinals hosting the Atlanta Falcons. David Johnson is questionable. Christian Kirk is questionable. Damiere Byrd is questionable. David Johnson seems to be trending in a good direction, but it's the late afternoon kickoff, right? You're going to need a fallback plan in that range of games, or the Sunday night or Monday night game. So just keep that in mind with David Johnson. I think he'll go. The reporting is from both the local and national insiders that he will go, but you'll want to watch that and play it safe. Kirk seems likely to come back too, and Damiere Byrd is getting closer as well. Sunday night game, Mason Rudolph has been ruled out for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They'll be at the Chargers in Los Angeles. Devlin Hodges gets to start. We saw a little bit of him last week. There will be no James Washington. There will be no Jalen Samuels for the Steelers. So it'll be maybe a heavy James Conner workload in this one. The receiving core, Juju Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson, the starters, obviously. Beyond that, seems like a little bit of crapshoot. Vance McDonald off the injury report. Has had the shoulder injury. On the other side of the ball, Justin Jackson, Mike Badgley listed as doubtful. Chase McLaughlin is likely to kick again for Badgley. And in the backfield, Melvin Gordon, Anthony Lynn said will get a greater workload this week. They'll continue ramping him up. Maybe it's closer to full this week. Austin Eckler still a great play in my estimation. Hunter Henry listed as questionable. Worked on a limited basis all week. Sounds like he's very close to returning. If he does this week, Anthony Lynn has said he will only play a limited role. So be careful with that. Monday night, we don't have the final injury report yet, but I can tell you this. Danny Amendola, TJ Hawkinson. Hawkinson appears to be on track for Detroit, coming back from the concussion he suffered 2 weeks ago. Amendola working on a limited basis as well, so he seems likely to go. Hawkinson, according to the team's website, will go, assuming there's no setbacks between now and Monday night. Even if he draws a questionable designation, it would not be surprising there. The Packers is where things get dicey. Aaron Rodgers has been working on a limited basis. It's a need. Don't expect it to keep him out. Jamal Williams will work fully on Thursday or Friday. So he seems to be on track to return from his concussion. Marquez Valdez-Scantling went from limited to full practice on Friday. He has a hamstring and calf issue. He seems almost certain to play. Mercedes Lewis, a hip injury. He was limited. He seems certain to play. But not so certain to play Devontae Adams and Robert Tonyan, the tight end. But Adams in particular, not on the practice field Saturday. Just before I recorded this, got that information. So, and the local observers don't expect him to play. You go back to Friday morning, I put an article up in the late breaking news section that kind of details he's still in a fair amount of pain. So, doesn't seem like this is the week. They have until Monday to get him ready. So, that's a possibility. I'm not sure it's something I want to rely on unless I had a really solid fallback option on either of the teams. And, look, maybe Marquez Valdez-Scantling or is a viable fallback, or Danny Amendola. I don't know. So there you have it. There's the injury situations we're looking at. Of course, as always, you can check the main page of the site, and I suggest doing this strongly. Before you set your final lineups, check Sunday morning. We have the inactives in the 90 minutes leading up to kickoff every day. Also, check back at the site. Bobby Gomes, the former DFS DraftKings Millionaire Maker winner, and Kyle Dvorak will be doing their live pregame video at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. I'll be on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio with Jeff Manns doing the SiriusXM Fantasy pregame show from 11 to 1. So you can listen to that, get more information on the inactives. Beyond that, we'll have every inactive on the site as well. So dial in there. Plenty of information in the interim, whether it's John Lobb's great DraftKings sheet of knowledge, the Scholars sheet of knowledge, the DFS 3 and out, Gary Davenport's the Shadow Knows, Brad Cruz is Sit Start. Brad Cruz, one of the most successful DFS players or high stakes players in the land. We've got Justin Lanero, Kyle Dvorak, Mike Valverde, Evan Tarciano, Matthew Charon. We've got the full range of information, some great audio and video as well. So check it out now at FootballDiehards.com, and also listen to Football Diehards on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio every weeknight from 6 to 8. Also catch Football Diehards on SiriusXM NFL Radio Saturday night if you're watching this Saturday. Tune in Saturday night. We'll dig in deeper into some of these issues and more. And good luck setting your lineups this week, and we'll talk to you next week.